You are Locked On Wolves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Minnesota on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
T-Wolves get a little swag back and a huge bounce back in the rematch, let me just say, versus the Pelicans. 41-point beatdown tonight. Final score, 134-93. What's going on back in the lab, back at it? Another T-Wolves postcast episode right here on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Network. Your team every day. Jack Borman with me as always. Give him a follow at JBorman13. Jack, just off the jump, real quick, for the people who turned on their TV sets and saw Joe Ingles get the start tonight, can you give him the quick 30-second elevator pitch on the reasoning behind that? Because it's a pretty cool story, to be honest.
Yeah, very cool story. So Joe Ingles' wife, Renee, and their three kids, live in Orlando. That's where Joe played last season in part due to, some specialty schools that are down there because his son Jacob is autistic. So like I said, they're in town for 10 days right now. And earlier this week, Jacob hit a pretty cool milestone that he was able to get through a complete NBA game in the arena for the first time.
Man.
But unfortunately did not get to see his dad play because Joe did not play in that game. And so Chris Finch, Timberwolves organization, really cool move. They gave Joe the start tonight. So Jacob and his siblings could see their dad start an NBA game tonight and see him play off the jump. So they were definitely trying to get Joe a bucket there, but yeah, really, really cool night.
He had a wide open look. You know he's still thinking about right now. But, yeah, really cool story. Props to Finch and the entire organization, really, for pulling a move like that to a classy veteran like Joe Ingles. Lots to get into, Jack. The Wolves finding a little team mojo, 40 assists on the night, plus our game MVP, biggest turning point. But first, quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by Game Time. Game Time, download the Game Time app, create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. All right, so Wolves trying to bounce back after, call it what it is, man. 2 back-to-back embarrassing losses at home, no less, to the Pacers Monday, Pelicans Wednesday night. No Zion this time, so absolutely no excuses. Wolves go up 6 after the first quarter with some fantastic ball movement. Julius was a big part of that, not only with the assists, but the scoring as well from deep and from the paint. He led the team with 14 at halftime. Wolves go up 14 in the locker room, and they really only got stronger from there. A 35-24 advantage in the third quarter to go up 25. And with 5 minutes and change, in came the young pups in garbage time. So back to 10 games above 500 now, 41-31 on the year. Big picture here, Jack, that was a good old-fashioned beatdown. Can one game like this move the needle enough to find some swag again, find some team chemistry, if you will, albeit against a Zion-less Pelicans team? And also, what impressed you the most tonight that you think they need to continue over these last 10 games before the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, this team's chemistry is super strong in the sense that they all get along with each other really, really well. They all love being around each other. I mean, being in the locker room before that game on Wednesday, I was in there for half an hour tonight talking to all sorts of guys that were, just super loose and just super excited to get out there and play tonight. And I think that kind of, showed itself once, once Nas and Julius made those first two or those threes at the end of the first quarter, I think kind of got some life into the building. But yeah, I think that, you got to start somewhere with getting the train back on the tracks. And the Timberwolves can only control what they can control, and they can't control whether or not Zion Williamson's playing or Trey Murphy or Herb Jones or DeJounte Murray are playing. So I think in terms of that aspect, I thought the Wolves gave a much better effort on the defensive end tonight. Granted, easier to do that without Zion, but I think it starts there. You can control how hard you play defensively on every single possession. You can't control whether shots go in, shots don't go in. I just thought that they did a much better job kind of, getting their offense where it needed to be in the second, third, and fourth quarters. I just thought there were way too many turnovers early in the game, and the way that they kind of rebounded from that was important. And I think, again, like if you can just kind of get into the mojo more offensively, just share the ball a ton, drive, cut, play off the catch really nicely, make simple reads, easy decisions, execute high or, very easy passes at a high consistency rate is super important. And, it doesn't matter who you're playing against. I think things like that can kind of carry over into into other games. And, again, you're going to play Indiana on Monday, a team that they're, familiar with and want to make up for having one of those losses a few nights ago here at Target Center. So got to start somewhere. And it was a super productive night from the Timberwolves.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
Jack, tonight's game MVP for the Wolves in this 41-point beatdown was who and why? Talk to me, lay it on us.
Yeah, I think it's hard to pick just because tonight was such a by committee win. But I'm going to go with Julius Randle. I just thought that he played really poorly the other night. He had 6 turnovers. He said after the game he took complete accountability for his performance and said, I need to be better. And he came out tonight and he was much better. I thought the physicality that he played with early on in the first quarter was really important. His willingness to shoot threes is something that's been really strong. He's been shooting right at around a 50% clip, 50% clip over the last 6 or 7 games, which has been huge for the Wolves. And just really helps their spacing, I think, if defenders have to close out an extra foot or two. He's really, really good at playing off the catch and making good passes on the drive. So that's huge. And then
2/3 of his rebounds, by the way, offensive rebounds, which I know we'll talk about later, but absolutely huge as well.
Yeah, I think he kind of attacks the offensive glass a little harder than he attacks the defensive glass. But hey, I mean, that's still really important and something that Timberwolves need. And I just think when Julius is really playing physically and aggressively, playing downhill, scoring, getting those and ones that we've seen him get throughout the majority of the season, and make those good passes that I think force the defense into rotation. He's just a really, really productive player that I think everyone else kind of feeds off of and they want to play through him when he's got it going, because it just lightens the load for everyone else. And you just kind of need, one of those tailbacks that can give you, 25 carries for, 100 and 120 yards on any given day. And that's kind of like what Julius Randle is when he's playing his best. So really great night from Julius. And I thought too that, when Julius caught the ball, at the free throw line extended in that mid post area where they like to play off of him and play out in an empty side, he does an excellent job of hitting guys that are moving, above the break. I thought Dante DiVincenzo and Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels too, for the most part, really did a nice job moving without the basketball, setting screens for one another up there above the arc to create open 3-point opportunities, which was, something that the Timberwolves obviously are a really good 3-point shooting team, but that was something they needed. And Julius Randle had 5 assists tonight, and 3 of those were 3-point shots, and all 3 of them were above the break. So just really productive type of offense when they're able to get that going. And then, once guys are able to knock down a few threes, they have to close out harder. And that gets guys like Dante and Ant and Nikhil, Jaden can all play off the catch. And I thought Ant and Jaden specifically, did a good job of playing off the catch from, getting passes above the break. And that just kind of fed into Jaden having a really strong second half. He and Ant scored the first 12 points of the third quarter. Jaden had 7, Ant had 5. They both ended with 17 points. So again, another instance of kind of Julius Randle's game, getting some other guys going. And I think that was highlighted too by that huge dunk that Jaden McDaniels had over Yves Missi. So but again, for the offense.
You talking about the Slim Slam? Are you talking about a vintage trademark Slim Slam?
Was that what Grady hit everyone
Love Grady. With? Grady's just crushing, man. Yeah, absolutely love. And to your point too, Jeff just called it out in the comments. You don't notice it as much in a beat down like this, a 41-point throttling, but 19 threes instead of 14 per Wednesday night versus the Pelicans in that loss. It's a huge difference, especially as we've talked about all year long, how important the 3-ball really is for this team as well. Plenty more deep dive from this one. I want to talk about the turning point of the game with you, and then just more team stats that the Wolves dominated tonight. That's all coming up right after this. Quick reminder, tonight's episode brought to us by FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Right now, FanDuel is giving you a chance at a huge return of $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you win your first $5 bet. Why I love FanDuel? When you get the hunch in the middle of the game, You can go check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. Again, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 wager. Go check it all out over at FanDuel.com. Get in on some NBA future action while you're there. Naz Reid 6 Man of the Year odds still sitting at 4-1. It's all sitting up over at FanDuel.com. Again, check it all out over at FanDuel.com and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you win your first $5 bet. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the NBA.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
Turning point, Jack. What was the turning point of this 41-point beatdown in this game for you?
Yeah, there were 4 guys off the bench who had a terrific night for the Timberwolves, but one of them in specific, I thought did a great job of kind of starting the fire that really ballooned this thing out to what became the Timberwolves' largest win of the season. Was Jalen Clark for me. Chris Finch said before the game that probably his biggest regret from Wednesday night's game was not playing Jalen Clark more. He had like 12 minutes, and Finch said he probably should have played 20.
Yeah.
And tonight, Jalen Clark checks into the game in that second quarter. Very early on in him playing, Naz Reid had a wide open corner 3, and he turned it down to get an even wider open 3 for Jalen Clark. He splashed that, and then on the next trip, Jalen Clark had a steal and then paid Naz back with that hit-ahead pass that became a Naz dunk. New Orleans called a timeout. There was still a lot of juice in the building. And what does Jalen Clark do? Gets a steal on that first possession out of the timeout. So that really spurred a 12-0 Timberwolves run. They went from down 4 to up 8. And then, I don't think the Timberwolves really had it within 8 points for much, if any, of the rest of the game from there on out. That became
there was like 19 lead changes in the first quarter, Jack, and then after that, it was it was over. Yeah,
and that became a 32-14 run to end the quarter. So plus 18 for the Timberwolves, and that also kind of coincided with Chris Finch getting Mike and Rudy back in the game, which was really important. Those 2 guys were great in the second quarter, but it was also nice to see Jalen play really well in the fourth quarter. Once he got back, he hit a 3 to start the quarter and then threw down a huge dunk. I know a lot of Jalen Clark's teammates have been giving him grief in the locker room saying, "Hey, can you dunk? We haven't really seen you dunk. You sure you're able to dunk after that Achilles injury?" And that was a very loud, I actually can dunk type of
statement dunk
from Jalen Clark, which was fun to see. And he was just one of 4 guys off the bench that had a really productive night for this Timberwolves team. The league average scoring off the bench is about 35 points a game. Tonight, the Timberwolves had 60 points off the bench, and obviously, part of that is due to the garbage time guys getting extended run. But even if you take that away, Dante had 13 points, made 3 threes. Naz had 15 points, 6 assists, 5 boards, also made 3 threes. Jalen Clark, 11 points, also made 3 threes. And Nikhil had 8 more points. So between the 4 of those guys, 47 points. They shot 10 of 22 from threes, which is great. And they had 12 assists to just 2 turnovers. So those 4 guys off the bench, not counting Mike Conley, if you want to throw in Mike Conley's 6 assists and 1 turnover in there, then that balloons up to 18 assists, 3 turnovers. I mean, those guys off the bench were tremendous tonight. And I think, for the majority of the season have been the group that's, stimulated a lot of that good ball movement, player movement, kind of 0.5 mentality that Finch loves, where guys are making quick decisions and playing well with the ball in their hands, without the ball, crashing the offensive glass, flying around defensively, kind of doing everything. And I thought they really embodied that for most of the night, and kind of getting that second quarter party started was really important to kind of get the train back on the tracks in that quarter specifically, but also for this Timberwolves team at large. So that was really important.
So 40 assists, that was fantastic, obviously. 37 points off turnovers, love that. You mentioned the Wolves bench outscoring the Pelicans bench by, almost double. Offensive rebounds were fantastic. What did you love the most tonight? Like, rank them rapid fire, I guess, from most impressive and most important for this team to win games moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, super important that the Timberwolves had 40 assists in this game. That's a season high for the Wolves. 40 of their 48 baskets were assisted. I think that's super important for this team to be able to do that. And then, anytime that you're going to score 57 points off of turnovers plus, when you combine the offensive rebounding, the points off turnovers, you get 57 points. You're living right doing that. The Timberwolves also 50, 40, 90 tonight. That's kind of a huge, elite club in terms of efficiency for players. If you're able to maintain that 50% shooting from the field, 40% shooting from three, 90% shooting from the free throw line. The Timberwolves did that for the fourth time this season. Was it fourth time or fifth time for the Timberwolves? It was the fifth time they've done that this season. They're now 4-1 when they've been able to do that. So yeah, really, really nice night for the Wolves tonight. Just kind of all the way around. It's kind of hard to pick one. I think obviously like the fact that they had forced 26 turnovers, 14 of those were live ball turnovers. And so that obviously, helped them be able to score so many points off of turnovers. But another one too that might fly under the radar for the Wolves was the way that they won in the paint. I thought this was an excellent Rudy Gobert game. He did a great job of not only defending shots at the rim, but really just keeping the Pelicans away from the rim. I thought that they weren't really able to utilize Yves Missi, who's an electric lob threat, as you kind of saw the other night, and maybe once tonight. And the way that they were able to, prevent the Pelicans from getting a whole lot going off the pick and roll game was super important. And then on the other side of that coin, the Timberwolves really struggled to finish at the rim the other night. I think they were like 9 of 20 at the rim. And tonight they were 22 of 28, 79%, well above the league average of making about 2/3 of your shots. And again, what I really liked about those 22 makes, 18 of them were assisted. 82% of their makes at the rim were assisted, which is, definitely where you want to be. And, the fact that they just didn't have to rely on a whole lot of self-created buckets was great. And I think this offense has shown that it can be really dynamic when they share the ball again, and when they end up, scoring. Again, I know that I've referenced it a bunch, but that 120 point mark is a really important one for the Timberwolves. They're now 16-3 when they score at least 120 points in a game. And again, like when they share the ball, the offense is dynamic. They're able to spread defenses out. They were 19 of 44 from three, 43%. They've got a bunch of good shooters, a bunch of guys that can play nicely off the catch. And so, the more that they're just able to drive in, kick it out, get the defense in rotation, just swing the ball around the perimeter and just kind of, play freely. They're a super tough team to beat if they're able to then, also bring the requisite energy on the defensive end of the floor. And look, I do think that a performance like this, even if it's against, a team that they were surely expected to beat, I think the spread was like 15.5 or 16 points by the time the game tipped off. It doesn't matter. I still think, kind of the muscle memory of playing the way that you're supposed to play and proving yourself, like no matter the opponent, we can do this. And this is how we're supposed to play is super important. And I think can be important for, the Timberwolves' confidence as they kind of push forward here and have an opportunity potentially to get up to that 6th spot, because Steph Curry may miss a few games here with a pelvic injury that Shams Charania reported on earlier today. So
they also threw up a graphic real quick, Jack. Lakers, Clippers, Golden State, they all have like 2 or 3 more games they have to play, and Wolves only have to play one of those teams one time. The other 3 teams have to play each other at least 2, if not some of them 3 times too, which goes back to our point after Wednesday's loss that some of those teams are just going to have to beat each other up a little bit, and there will inevitably be some big losses in that department as well. But we'll break that down a little bit more Monday night after the Pacers game. Couple minutes left. Let's talk about that Pacers rematch again Monday night. Then we'll wrap up with what we'll be talking about. That's all coming up right after this.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
All right, Pacers rematch up next. Another situation here, just like we had tonight, where you get to see the same team you just saw a few nights prior here, Jack. What's the number one adjustment you think they need to make after that Monday loss? And what else, I guess, are you thinking about? Do you have kind of written down in the back of your head? What are you forecasting when you look at this matchup again?
Yeah, I think a lot of it hinges upon whether or not Tyrese Halliburton plays.
Yeah.
We all just kind of thought that Indiana was completely punting on that game, sitting everyone for one game and then bringing them all back. But I don't think Tyrese Halliburton has played since that Timberwolves game that he missed with a back issue. So if Tyrese Halliburton plays, then obviously this is going to be a team that wants to get out and run and wants to do it early and often. Indiana has been right up there in terms of points off turnovers. Or not points off turnovers, fast break points for the majority of the season. They do very well in that department, controlling the differential there. And I just think too, like they're going to have to be really disciplined in pick and roll because Miles Turner is a guy that can do a lot of different things in the pick and roll game. He can kind of ghost screen and slip. He can pop out and shoot threes. He's a good playmaker from the middle of the floor. So the Timberwolves are going to have to, be really locked in on that because, then you've got a bunch of different guys that can shoot playing off of that. And then you've got a guy like Pascal Siakam, who's a really good cutter, is also capable of spotting up and shooting. And so I think those three present, a pretty nice threat to the Timberwolves, just with the way that the Timberwolves like to play defense. And so, whether or not, again, Tyrese Halliburton plays is going to be super important, but we'll see if, there's any kind of residual, kind of animosity between Andrew Nembhard and Rudy Gobert after both of those two guys were ejected. Nembhard actually got ejected again earlier this week in their most recent game for getting two more
heat check. He's on the heat check coming in Monday night.
So kind of an interesting spot there, but again, like I think the bench is going to have to be ready to go too, because with Indiana bringing guys like Benedict Mathurin, TJ McConnell, Nembhard all off the bench, that's kind of their version of the DDV Nas combo. So I don't know that the bench will have kind of that built-in advantage that they're used to having. So the starters are really going to have to bring it and play well. And I think if the Timberwolves want to walk away with a win, they're going to have to get more out of Julius Randle than the Pacers get out of Pascal Siakam. So that'll be kind of a fun matchup to watch with two 4 guys that, play very different ways, but kind of bring some of the same physicality and playmaking and downhill aggression that's really needed. But Pascal Siakam is much more of a kind of a speed guy and likes to get to those spin moves, whereas Julius Randle is just a little bit more brute force. So that'll just be a fun matchup. Yeah. And if Tyrese Halliburton does play, I guess the good thing for Timberwolves fans too is that Jaden McDaniels has a very, very good track record of defending Tyrese Halliburton and making his life pretty miserable when those two go up against it. So should be a fun matchup and hopefully should be one that Ant is able to play well. I saw Ant in passing in the hallway before this one went final, and he said it was his thigh that he hit. And Dante DiVincenzo got whacked in the head too, and looked kind of out of it, but both were able to come back, and hopefully both those guys are ready to go, because it should be a good opportunity for both of those guys to play well.
Yeah, good timing to get 2 nights off here as well, and not have any more back-to-backs anyways, especially with both those guys. 2 big names, obviously, 2 important players, a little dinged up. Only 10 games left here, and again, game 1 of 10 starts Monday night, 6 p.m. tip with the Pacers.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
What do you think people are going to be talking about tomorrow after work after this one? Water cooler talk, if you will. Texting in the Wolves group chat. What's the, what's the everybody talking about, I guess, after those two. It's tough because there wasn't like one main game MVP like you talked about. You picked Julius Randle. It was a fun 41-point breakdown. But which direction do you think you go after this one? More big picture, I think, than anything else.
Yeah, I just think that it's nice that the team has guys that can all contribute on any given night. I think
we've been waiting a while to see this depth. I mean, the first half of the season, we really didn't see it. We knew it was sitting there, but we really didn't see it come to fruition now. And it's been fun to watch for sure.
Yeah, and I think what's nice is that, when guys were hurt too, Finch probably gained confidence in guys like Jalen Clark or TJ Shannon, so that if the game really does need a lot more energy or juice, or the starters or maybe the first or second guy off the bench just doesn't have it, you can go to that option that maybe you don't quite feel as a break glass in case of emergency type of situation. That's something that, all right, we feel confident. We know that this lineup worked when guys were out, or we think that, Jalen can step in there and play if Jaden gets in foul trouble. We feel confident in Jalen as an offensive player like we saw tonight. I mean, he's been a good cutter, good offensive rebounder. He's proven that he can knock down open threes when he gets it. And so I think all of those things play nicely. But again, another night where the Wolves have 7 guys scoring in double figures, which is obviously great to have. And I think the Timberwolves offense is certainly capable. It's just a matter of whether or not it delivers. And I think the more that you see guys off the bench being able to contribute like they did tonight and shoot it really efficiently from 3, I think, just kind of rubs off on all the other starters and kind of helps this offense play with more flow and rhythm and produces nights like you did tonight, a 41-point win, their largest of the season. And hopefully they can kind of keep that positive momentum going on Monday.
Yeah, always fun when they win. 41-point beat down versus the Pels, 134-93. That's your final. 41-31 now on the year, 10 games above 500 with 10 games to play. As always, huge shout out to all you guys, all the everydayers out there that always make us your first listen, all you guys coming in the chat with us from game to game. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and go follow Jack at JR Borman 13, live from the Target Center. More games than not. Jack, last one, bracket busted yet? Or are we feeling good after round 1? How you looking?
I feel great, man. I watched 0 college basketball games. My bracket's doing really well. So
you just want to survive this first weekend. You just need your big 4 teams, your big 4 studs to survive this first weekend. So you're feeling good.
Yeah, for sure. I think I had 15 of the 16 picks right on day 1,
Crushed.
Which was nice to have. The last few years, I feel like I've had a Final 4 team go down on like day 1 or day 2.
Yeah, that hurts. Yeah.
And I have not had that yet. So it makes it a lot more fun. But I haven't been able to be quite as locked in on the games with just very busy time at work and then being here. So.
Absolutely. I don't think, honestly, I'm embarrassed to even admit this. I don't think I've sat down and watched a game yet from start to finish, which just is foreign territory for me. But hopefully this weekend, 2 nights off. Then we got the Pacers rematch. That's Monday night. Again, 6 p.m. tip. Catch you right here, same time, same place. But until then, signing out.